Good evening. Welcome to Rose City Politics. It is September the 8th. Our regular panel tonight includes Doug Sartori, Don Merrifield Jr., and myself, John Lidke. We also have a guest tonight, a guest panelist, a current city councilor, Ward 4 city councilor, Chris Holt. How are you doing, councilor?
I'm just doing wonderful, John. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad I personally reached out to you and did all of that prep work with you. Glad to have you here.
Nobody's going to bring up the haircut. Nothing.
I can't tell, Don. I didn't realize you had a haircut.
Not on me, on Chris.
Oh.
I always look like this. What's his excuse?
It looks sharp, Chris.
Thanks. That's number 3.
Number 3, good.
That's what it is. I don't have the perfectly shaped skull that Don has to go right to the wood. So
I'm at 0.8 millimeters now. I've worked my way down. Yeah.
You obviously don't spend your time banging your head against the wall at City Hall.
No.
This shape and form that I have up here, I can't. I've got a lot of dents that I have to hide with 3 stubble.
We all chose our careers, Chris.
See, Don, you should grow out a bigger beard and get a pair of frames, and you could go and do like a sub in and out thing with the councilor. Right?
They wouldn't even know the difference. I could just, our voting records would be exactly the same.
You'd have to still phone it into you. I mean, otherwise things would go terribly astray in Ward 4.
So John Lidke just said Chris Holt phones it in. All right, go ahead, John.
Okay, well, that's how it's being interpreted. Well, we're so glad to have you here, councilor. If you're listening and you're a Patreon subscriber, thank you. If not, head over patreon.com/Rose City Politics. We are in print this month in BizX Magazine. We're online at bizxmagazine.com as well. We're wherever you get podcasts and on all your social media apps. And we've been able to broadcast live on tape thanks to the kind support of Leuna 625, Building Better Communities. We've got a really fun show tonight. It's great that we've got the councilor here. We're following up on a 7.5 year journey that he set things in motion for, and we're going to be touching in about a study on costs of services across settlement patterns citywide, and we'll be talking with councilor about why you brought forward a question and how long it took and what does it actually mean, where we're going to be going with it. And then if we have time, we'll be getting to a few other topics as well, but we'll keep you all in suspense about those other topics because we might not get to them.
More haircut talk.
More haircut talk. Absolutely. I'm going to keep trying to convince them to move forward with the switcheroo. It's going to be a real good Freaky Friday. But let's get to this, so this is follow up to a, so council report, right? Requirements for conducting a study on cost of services across settlement patterns citywide. The recommendation here is be received for information. Now, councilor, I'm going to let you set the stage with this one rather than going through this and just reading what's on the stage here, on the screen. This all started in 2014 and it was your first council meeting, right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
What was it that you asked? You come in, you're a brand new councilor and you want to make your mark. What was it?
So yes, it was December 15th, 2014. Newly elected councilor, nervous as hell. Sitting in, this was in the old Purple Passion Pit in the old City Hall. So a lot of history in that room. There was literal fights at my council, at my desk there. So I finally got the chance to ask a council question, and that council question was, and I'm paraphrasing, progressive ideas for creating walkable and livable communities. Something along those lines, very broad, open-ended, which in turn spawned a whole bunch of reports going through the past 7 years. So I can't really say that it took 7 years specifically for this report to get here. Specifically, that this report was requested of administration in 2016, I believe, November of 2016. But the kernel of it goes back to my very first council meeting. So yes, I hold this piece of paper, and it's true, a piece of paper. I print stuff out, so I don't have the ability or the eyesight or the youthful intention of following along on the electronic screen. So Yeah, it's this report is very near and dear to my heart. It's got a title to it that will drive half of your listeners away. You can't get a more boring title than requirements for conducting a study on costs. I call this the city math report. So what it all comes down to, and something that I've really been advocating for in my time on council, is really let's get down to the brass tacks of exactly what it costs to run the city. Of course, I've got ulterior motives there. I want to get rid of all cars and snout houses. But there are details in there that can really help council build a more equitable and sustainable community. And that's in it kind of where this report is going. So I forget the exact the topic where I asked for this report, but it references a 2005 report done by the Halifax Regional Municipality. And in that report, they broke it down into 8 different settlement patterns and the cost of providing services from water and roads to fire and police and libraries to those 8 different settlement patterns. And as you can imagine, it costs a lot more to send to build roads out to Don's house in the middle of the cow field than it is to John's house in right in downtown Windsor. So 3 times more, actually. It's like $3,000 to build roads out to Don's snout house and $1,000 to build the roads into John's house. So in a nutshell, that is what this report is basically laying out for us. And what I would like to see come from this report is using this as again as a seed to build a Made in Windsor report. In that report, I want to see a little bit more than just what the cost of providing services. I also want to see a revenue aspect to it as well. So it might cost the city X number of dollars more to build a road out to the Walmart out there versus a nice mixed use building in the middle of Walkerville. I want to know what kind of revenues are generated per acre coming back to balance that other side of the equation. And I'm really hoping, and I'm really looking forward to getting into the debate to see how we can do that, because the way we build our cities, the way we build our transportation network impacts the bottom line for everyone in the city. And I think what you'll find out is some people are subsidizing other people, and it's not what you think. So I'm really looking forward to hopefully getting the committees and then further on council's approval to go forward with this report and really seeing what it is on the ground in Windsor, so we could use it as another planning document.
All right, can I just jump right in here, John, for 1 second? I'd like to
Sure.
make 2 points. First of all, anyone who knows me knows you can only reach my house by helicopter, so roads aren't really that important. But actually, on a serious note, you brought up that point. That was kind of going to be my point. Given what I do for a living, I'm very aware of what property taxes are for different properties. So when you get out into more of the rural properties, let's just use suburbs for a generic name. Generally, you're going to be on bigger lots, you're going to be bigger houses, and your taxes are probably going to be 3 to 4 times what I pay in my tiny little downtown house that I actually live in, as opposed to where people think I really live. So if we're talking 3 times the costs for services, yet they're paying basically 3 times the cost for taxes, isn't it pretty much a wash at that point?
Well, I've got some numbers, and keep in mind this is from the Halifax report. So this is old. It's from 2005, and it's Halifax. So it's not Windsor. But for a typical suburban household, low density, 16 people per acre, the total estimated annual cost of services was $3,462 compared to $1,416 for a typical urban household high density. The estimated life cycle cost of those roads on top of that in the lowest density rural pattern is $1,053 a year. So this goes beyond just the capital expense of supplying the infrastructure. It gets on into the maintenance. $1,053 per year compared to $26 in the core. So this study found that 60 to 80% of the life cycle costs of all the infrastructure is in long-term maintenance and repair of the service. So it's not just building the road out there to your helicopter pad, Don. It's also plowing that snow, servicing with emergency vehicles, fixing the cracks, and nowadays it's doing a mill and pave every 7 years type of thing. So that is the gift that keeps on giving, and that's the thing that really creates a $1 billion infrastructure deficit.
So on the initial cost, do in-post fees and permit fees and all that actually cover the cost of the basic infrastructure to go in initially?
Well, we're going to have to see.
Or is that a math problem you just don't know yet?
That's a math problem that we really do have to, because the times have changed since the last report that I've seen. But on average, the average ratepayer in a municipality pays about 86 cents for every dollar of infrastructure that they receive. Now that's old. That's going back to my college days. That's why I think it's important that we really find out exactly what it costs in the city of Windsor in 2021 to provide that infrastructure.
Okay, and just one other point I would like to make is when you see a new subdivision going up, the actual infrastructure costs for the subdivision are actually borne by the developer. The city's not paying to put those services in, the developer is. So the builders are paying on top of impost fees and permit fees, the cost of the developer to actually buy the lot. Is that factored in, or are we just assuming this is just a straight cost borne by the taxpayers?
Well, again, the actual capital outlay costs are represent 20% of the life cycle costs of that infrastructure. So even I don't know in the Halifax report whether or not they factored that in, but just that figure alone tells me that that's the cheapest aspect of the whole equation, is actually constructing the road, and then the municipality is on the hook for the life cycle costs of that subdivision and that road that the developer used to increase the value of his property, so that he could actually attain the whatever $120,000 a lot that he's charging for it now. So that developer is seeing a return on investment for laying down that asphalt.
I'm done cross-examining the witness. You can carry on.
Doug, do you want to come in with anything?
Do I want to jump
Follow
in,
that
like,
up.
follow it up? Sure. I want to get into I want to get into the politics, but I want to maybe we'll start by sticking to the territory that Don started going down. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you, the CIPs are mentioned in this report. The CIPs are a subsidy to taxpayers to invest in certain parts of the city versus other parts of the city. That subsidy, to my understanding, takes the form of tax breaks. So my question to you, because I think, this is a critique of the CIPs that I've heard from folks. If these numbers are valid in Windsor, and it seems that the City of Windsor administration thinks that they are. They didn't indicate that they expected to see anything different should this process be repeated for Windsor. Does that mean that a CIP program that is going to promote higher density living in the city, is that going to pay for itself, or is that something where ratepayers in other parts of the city are subsidizing that investment?
Well, I don't think we're ever going to get to the point of pure user pay system. So people who are in the core of the city that are enjoying the lower lower infrastructure costs, I don't think they're going to really see a reduction in their income tax or their cost of living for providing services to their property. And as well, the CIPs that the city realizes that it's really cost effective for us, for the city, to encourage higher densities, whether it's commercial, mixed use, residential, what have you. So I never see it getting to the point where, well, if you live in this block, you're going to be paying X number of dollars per linear foot of your infrastructure. There is always going to be somebody subsidizing somebody. It's never going to be a clean slate. state. Since World War II, it has been the inner core areas on 30-foot lots in high-rise apartment buildings that are doing the subsidization. It's been this way for 70 years now. Like I said, it costs more money, but dollar for dollar, your whatever your house is valued at by MPACT, it doesn't take off the same ratio of infrastructure dollars. It's basically one for one type of thing. So I see a future where we will get closer to equity, recognizing the costs of providing these services. And it's not just roads and sewers, it's libraries, the symphony, transit, it's all the emergency services. And the one thing this doesn't get into is actually the private consumer portion. It costs more money to run a cable line, a glass fiber network line to a house in the suburbs than it does in an apartment building. But we don't pay any different on that. So in that, again, the pricing is really focused on the worst case scenario, and that's that one house in the middle of a 5-acre field versus 100 people living cheek to jowl in an apartment building. So it's those same apartment dwellers that are subsidizing the automotive network. They're also subsidizing cable, phone, all the other private things that we have to pay as private citizens as well. So there's always going to be a subsidization. But I'm really hoping that this will guide the municipality, because we keep on talking about respect for taxpayers. We keep on talking about zero tax increases. We could enjoy zero tax increases for the next 20 years if we started to employ a lot of the transportation land use planning ideas that are going to come out of reports like this. So,
okay.
Let's hope we move in that direction.
I do like how the hypothetical construct is Don living in a helicopter pad by himself in the middle of a field and 100 people living cheek to jowl in an apartment building.
Look, you're
a
not,
great construct.
You're not going to get me down there with the great unwashed. I'm supposed to be social distancing now. I'm old. You can get COVID. You got to be careful these days.
We like it when you're in the Don Pound just
That's
as
right.
much as you do, Don.
Yeah.
Just a follow-up on that. One of the things mentioned in the report is the cost of soft services, like libraries, like community centers. Something that I think is pretty evident when you look at a map of the city is that it is difficult, apparently, to provide those type of services and transit services as the footprint of the city expands. If you look at the traditional core areas of the city and where the libraries are located versus the more peripheral areas of the city, we don't have the same kind of density of libraries in the periphery of the city as we do in the core. So do you think that it becomes more difficult to have a recognizable city with the kind of services that residents expect to have within a reasonable distance as the footprint of the city gets bigger? That's what they call a softball, by the way, Chris.
Well, I appreciate the softball. It's I'm still chuckling about the Don Pound. That's good with all his friends. It really is. People will move into a city and expect certain services. That's what you're paying taxes for. That's what you're that great expensive tax bill that comes in, and that those are the expectations from an urban resident. Yes, it's when you look at at what the citizens demand, and that's the libraries, the community centers, the pools, the skate parks. Now it's pickleball courts. I don't know what pickleball is, but we're building them everywhere now. Everybody wants the urban access to these things. but the tax base and the density just isn't there to actually sustainably provide that with close by. And then on top of it all, we have to build sprawling parking lots, which in and of itself puts it onto a greenfield site and removes it from easy access, like it in the downtown or Walkerville or Sandwich area. So people tend to feel that they're paying more money for less stuff. And that's something that really works against the whole idea of densification, because they might look to the core, to the downtown area and say, look at all the great stuff that they have there, but they don't see the 92 people per acre density of taxpayers that are required to pay for that stuff. And they don't see that the huge amount of people that are actually there, living there, to actually support it. So it does make our job more and more difficult as to really show that this is a route that we need to take as a municipality. And it, I'm not even getting into the social and equity aspect of this or the environmental aspect of it. I'm just nailing the financial, the economic sense of building this way. There's lots of other reasons why we should build this way, but you get invited to a game, you get dealt a hand of cards, and at budget time, the hand of cards that we're dealt all the time comes down to dollars and cents. It comes down to decorative street lights or not. It comes down to the whole respect for taxpayer idea. But it's so hypocritical, because there are so many things that we could do to actually really address the infrastructure deficit and the money that we lay out every single month, except it goes against an ideology that really people feel entitled to. And that's the happy motoring public. That's the Freedom 55 idea of having your own country estate. And it's ingrained now. It's been a couple generations now that's been ingrained. And unfortunately, both sides of the equation do not add up. And you're gonna start seeing communities go bust once that first round or second round of roads start to come back. And that's the chickens coming home to roost. And all of a sudden we need to pay to replace all this road infrastructure, the water infrastructure en masse. Windsor's lucky. We have a significant tax base and we can weather that storm. The communities that are going to really suffer are the bedroom communities, the LaSalles, the Tecumsehs, that really don't have that tax base, commercial industrial tax base, that can help subsidize the residential taxes, which is what happens. They're going to really suffer, and you're going to start to see taxes in those communities really elevating way beyond what what we enjoy here in Windsor. So expect that.
For the soft services cost you were referring to, are we going to be looking at more user fees as a way to basically subsidize those, whatever they are, libraries, etc.?
I would prefer to plan our community in a better way that we don't have to do that. Rejig our urban landscape so that so it's more sustainable, so that we have more residents. Let's hit the brakes on the hospital land redevelopment out there, because we know it from the get-go that it's going to cost us more money than it's actually going to bring in. Let's pump up our infill development. Let's make it easier for developers to let's do some density bonusing. We want people to make money at building the city we want, right? But we just have to decide as a municipality what the form of that community is going to be, because right now there is people who want to live in a certain way, but the stock is just not there for them to do so. So they inevitably, go buy a house in the middle of a new subdivision. Let's do a target market analysis and let's find out exactly what we need to provide hard services to our residents in order to be able to afford what we're providing as soft services.
So I guess the follow-up question to that would be, do you feel that the reason people are moving out, Windsor has a problem because we're one municipality and relatively a small geographical area that has no regional zoning regulations or development regulations. So if we choose to go down one path in Windsor, people don't want to live that lifestyle, your dense lifestyle, are just going to move to LaSalle, Tecumseh, Amherstburg, et cetera, because there's no blanket regulations on how land use should be used in the area. Are we, unless we can get, I guess that's the question, are we basically put under, behind a rock and a hard place in Windsor? Because if we don't give the people what they want, they're just going to leave. And then that's, again, going to negatively affect Windsor anyway, if we're not providing the type of houses they want.
Yeah. So for me, and this is just personally speaking, even though I know there's some others on the city council that feel this way, I want Windsor to become the best urban experience that you can that you can have within Windsor Essex. If you don't want that, if you want to have this snout house on three quarters of an acre, go to LaSalle, go to Tecumseh, go to Lakeshore. I'm perfectly okay with that, because I don't feel it's fair to our fellow Windsorites that are paying their fair share to continually subsidizing a style of housing that we cannot afford. So I'm perfectly okay with letting the bedroom communities take up the slack if they really feel that that's something that they want to offer. And I don't know exactly how far are people actually leaving here because they can't find something that they want. That is something that you would know way better than me. I don't know the numbers that the influx and outflow, but I firmly believe that people want a more urban experience and access to amenities and transportation options. To be honest, this isn't a left wing thing. This is a quality of life thing. This is and the more and more we experience it, the more we understand it's also a fiscal thing. This is the Conservatives should be rallying behind this whole notion of the lack of subsidization of to a specific group, to a special interest group.
So this leads really well into what I want to talk about. And I think it's always really interesting to me which views and which perspectives get repeated and which don't. So, digging into that though, I want to start by asking you, Chris, if we ran a referendum in Windsor, straight up and down referendum on whether we should make the city more dense and more cost efficient, or if we should continue to expand the city's footprint and develop new subdivisions with the housing patterns that we have now, do you think that Windsorites would vote to continue on the way they are, or do you think that Windsorites would vote for a different vision?
I don't think they have all the information to make an educated decision right now, because we choose to keep our head in the sand about the true costs of the more sprawling development patterns that we've been doing. So if that referendum were to happen today, I think they would just go with their gut and say, I really like things the way they are. They're not really seeing the bridges and the tunnels and stuff that we can't afford to fix right now. When I say, when council says we have a $1 billion infrastructure deficit, that doesn't really matter to them, as long as their garbage is getting picked up, as long as there's minimum cracks in the road to their house. It really doesn't matter all that much to them. If we were to spend some time and actually educate people that, yes, we can have this nicer, quote unquote, nicer lifestyle, but that nicer lifestyle comes with a cost. And if we're willing to pay that cost, it's going to cost us more money. We will never get to the point where your taxes are going to actually decrease. They're always going to escalate to continue paying for this cost. if we actually had those honest conversations, more people would understand that we need to reevaluate things, that we might need to start charging more user fees at the community center, that we might need to start charging more because it's costing us more. We accept that in every other way of life. You know, you're off to buy a first car. And I know my first car was it cost me $400, but I knew exactly what I was getting for that $400. I didn't anticipate buying a Lincoln right off the bat. You know, having that those nice quality of life things costs more money. As we have to get people to understand that. And right now they don't. It's a fairyland. It's this belief that you can get something for nothing, that we have to smother that baby in the crib. And the sooner we can do that, excuse me, the faster we can actually start fixing it.
Okay, so I don't disagree with you in terms of where I think a referendum would land today. So you've been on council now for going on 7 years. It'll be 7 years in December, I guess, since you're swearing in. In that time, do you think that the needle has moved on this stuff? And if so, has it moved as much as you'd like? And if not, why not?
It never moves as fast as you like. And when you're deep down in the weeds, I know we a few other members of council that are that understand the whole city map thing have drowned our sorrows in quite a few drinks after council meetings because a vote didn't go our way. The best thing we can do, and I speak to all the activists, all the people out there who are actively working at putting forward ideas to better transit, to better bicycling, to better public space, the urban realm. We have made a lot of movement on this. We have expanded the conversation more than I think we give ourselves credit. And it's a conversation that needs to be ongoing. We have to build upon what we've accomplished. We have to stand on the shoulders of the people who came before us and hoist up the next group of people to get up on our shoulders to really forward the conversation. But I really believe that we have made significant strides in the understanding of a lot of these things, despite a lot of political pushback. And I know that's where kind of where you wanted to go there, Doug, is there's been a significant amount of pushback. There's still people on council that stick to the trope of zero tax increases, that we can actually build a better community without actually having to pay for it. And that perpetuates the falsehood that you can get something for nothing in my view. I know where Don's thinking right now. It's just we need to shift our priorities. It's not about paying more. It's about paying for the more important stuff and paying less for the less important stuff, and keeping our taxes right where they are. I've heard you once or twice, and bless you for never changing, because it makes,
I still think we should contract out city councilors, but that's a whole other topic.
I might get paid a minimum wage.
You probably get more money at that point.
Yeah, I might get paid minimum wage, but yeah, it's but I think even around the council table, Doug, it's changing. I'm seeing new councilors come in. Witness the great incumbent cast off in the last election, and seeing more progressive councillors come in. We're getting support from, and I hate setting it up like an us versus them type of thing, or an urban versus suburban thing, because it's not. But traditionally, you would see the support for ideas that I espouse coming from the people who live in the core, that actually deal with this stuff on a daily basis. We're getting support for a lot of the things from some of our suburban councillor colleagues, and it's wonderful. They're starting to see the connections between a healthy urban core that is finally starting to see property values raise, that are finally starting to pay a little bit more money, and it's actually benefiting their constituents. Maybe their constituents aren't paying as much of an increase to at budget time. So it is moving in that direction. I'm very thankful for that.
Okay. So this report came after your council question in December 2014. This particular report, and there's been some developments along the way. So it took 7 years. I'm not asking you to comment on this, but one of the things that I take from that is that that administration does not see this as a huge priority. That the folks on administration they don't share your sense of urgency about the need to reset the conversation. And I think one of the things that that is difficult when these arguments are made is that it doesn't seem like there is full support from the professionals in city administration for some of these ideas. And these are the experts that we turn to understand urban matters. These are the experts that we turn to understand what the right infrastructure and tax policy is. So my question to you is, why is that? And does that represent a flaw in your perspective if the experts don't see the same sense of urgency?
Well, I think it's a very fair observation. The report itself is 6 pages. It took 7 years. That's less than a page a year to get this, and it's not even a conducive study. It's just the report is basically saying, because I asked back in 2016, is how can we kind of replicate this other study in Windsor, and it's basically a response to, well, this is how we can do it. And there's probably a page there of why we don't need to do it, because, we already know this stuff. It's stated in the report that we already know this stuff. So, if we chose not to do it, it wouldn't be that bad of a thing. I believe that it took 7 years. Okay. Direction from administration, I feel is shifting as well. It's not just the councillors, it's not just the general public, but it's also administration. We've done a lot of hiring. There's a lot of fresh new people at the city that might not have been incubated within City Hall during the time that Eddie Francis was mayor. What you're seeing is people who might not know that they can't, that they should step back from certain things. At the end of the day, I really feel that the flavor, the direction that our administration runs is highly influenced from the mayor's office. The mayor's office is very happy with the status quo. Very happy with expanding Cabana to 20 lanes because he lives out there. He drives out there. Costco, as we've heard, is his favorite place in the world. So this is reflective of this is reflected in the attitude out of the mayor's office. I believe that is a thing of the past. I believe that's a waning sentiment. I believe, and I give really a lot more credit to the people in the community than I think I think that has been given to them. I can talk to my parents who are 80 years old, and the people, the white hairs in their apartment building about this stuff, and they get it. I don't feel that the 1950s vision of Windsor is going to cut it much longer, if it is even cutting it right now. That's kind of what we have. We have that 1950s vision, and I do see it changing everywhere, except for the mayor's office. And that's, but he was duly elected. The people put him in place. He hasn't really changed. He's got a much better communications team this time around, though, that he ever had. So it's really up to the people to decide whether or not that 1950s thinking is sufficient for getting towards our municipal goals. And hopefully, the more I talk, the more I help share exactly why and justify why it is that I really push for the things I do. We can have more and more conversations in the media and around the dinner table about these things. It's shifting. I really feel it. Just not fast enough.
Well, I can appreciate your point of view. It's just, these services they're costing more and more annually. And as a result, if we want to keep doing this, the prioritization is going to have to occur. I guess my question to you is, like, from the political angle, 7 years to get this to this point, it looks like it was shelved. And the way that I'm observing this now is this fits in a lot now with, Windsor Works and what the aims of that are: more densification in the core throughout our core areas in the city. Do you think, does this, comment as much as you can, is this just, more stick handling of that situation, that now that we're at the point where the mayor's office does feel comfortable having this conversation? I mean, it's a drastic change, right? But do you think, is there a through line here from Windsor Works to where we're at with even this coming out of the shadows? Because now it does have some semblance to fit into what we're seeing.
It definitely, it's fitting into the narrative that has been building. It's frustrating. It took 7 years, but I also want you to think as well, we're less than a year away from a municipal campaign. Here's a document that is going to spark a conversation that a lot of people around that council table do not want to have. The last thing in the world a lot of these people do not want to have is a conversation that's saying, this path that you've been walking on has been wrong. It's actually costing us more money, and it throws out the whole argument that those guys are crazy. They just want to tax and spend. We are your path to economic success, to financial betterment, to low taxes. This has the possibility of putting a knife in that vampire heart, because this report, let's say it comes back and it says what we all know it's going to say, that it's more expensive to do that than it is to do this. That's really going to shine a light on something that some people, a lot of people around that table, that's the only thing that they have to stand on, is that respect for taxpayers, keep things low. And I kind of look at the timing of this thing as a bit of a gift. I don't know who in administration chose to bring this forward and have this conversation within memory of voting day in 2022. But I look at it as a gift, and this is going to continue on the conversation. We're going to have some very good discussions, both around the standing committee table on Monday, and then further along the council table. So I try not to get too pessimistic about how long it took. Yeah, it looks like it was shelved. It looked like it was ignored, but it came a year away from an election with a pretty bow on it, and I'm going to take full advantage of that.
Now, with it getting to standing committee on Monday, like, when are you expecting it to get to full council?
Normally takes about a month.
Okay.
To go from standing committee to full council. And in that month, there's going to be a lot of media hits on this. There's going to be a lot of people that pick up on it, that are going to look at our recommendations. I'm not exactly sure what my recommendation. I'm going to bully the motion out of whoever is sitting around that table with me. I'm taking this motion. I'm going to be setting this up so that the recommendation going to council will be not only to replicate this, but to bulk it out and take the revenue in the revenue aspects of it, the form-based. I've been advocating for a form-based coding, a zoning reform in the municipality as well, because different forms of buildings produce different streams of revenue. The Walmart, it does not even come close to the kind of revenue that in a lot of mixed use urban buildings, like massively. So that's going to be the motion going forward. I haven't quite figured it out yet, but that's the direction that we're going to be going on Monday. And then we're going to have to debate it around the council table. And we're going to have to hear why people support it, why people don't. And that is going to be full of sound clips. That's going to further drive the discussion. And it's going to be the gift that keeps on giving. I like these long range ideas that we put out there, because it builds support every time we talk about it. It took us 4 tries to get bulk item pickup out there, and every time it came back to council, we had more discussions about how cleaning our infrastructure, cleaning our alleys made for better communities. And it rallied more and more and more support every time we went through this. So I'm happy with the way it's been going. I'm happy with the future of this piece of paper, and yeah, it's gonna give us nothing but great stuff.
Do you know of any other cities besides Halifax that have done something like this and then follow up, that have done the revenue attachment as well? It seems like it'll be a model that other cities can copy, it, like a really good made in Windsor solution, as you said at the top there.
Yeah, and I don't know of any other communities that have bundled it together like we're going to be doing. Like I hope we're going to be doing. A colleague of mine over in Michigan has sent me a list of other communities that are doing similar things. But there's be prepared for a lot of outside the box thinking coming from council in the lead up. It's in the lead up to the next election, because there's so much more we can be doing that is value added for the residents, for the visitors of this community, and really build on our quality of life. And it's a shame that these are things that we've been able to do. We've had the opportunity to be doing for the last 10 years, 15 years, and we haven't been doing them. So we're learning the stuff as we go, and there's a lot of really great examples out there. I really hope that whatever we can build with this can be a shining example to another community as well. They can look and say, hey, their infrastructure deficit's actually going down, and they're building great public spaces and great housing developments. How are they doing that? So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to make a rock star out of some of us.
One of the things I think we're really poor at in Windsor is having in-depth policy discussions as a community. It's not something that happens easily. Slogans tend to endure, and nuance tends to get forgotten. We still have, I would suspect, a lot of people in this city who think that an 8-year tax freeze was a good idea, even though I think there is lots and lots of objective evidence that it was a garbage pile policy. So the point here, though, that I want to make is, how do you think, like if you're talking to our audience, who are primarily folks, I think, who will be in sympathy with your views, Chris, who probably have been riding the rapids and frustrated and happy in all the same ways and times that you have for the past 7 years. We've got a year and a little bit to go before the municipal election of 2022. What can residents do? What can activists do? What can people in the community do to further the conversation, to amplify these big issues and make a meaningful community discussion happen?
I really wish I knew the answer to that. I don't know how to make policy discussions sexy. It's tough. It's very tough, and you guys are doing a fantastic job of it. But how do we amplify that? I think the worst thing in the world is to get is to wallow too deep in the weeds for too long. We touched upon it earlier on that, you know, once we step back and we look at what we have accomplished in the past few years, we've actually done a lot. We've shifted this freighter heading down the Detroit River by a high degree. We've done a really great job. We're hearing languages used around that council table that really have never happened before. You know, so we're having an impact. Don't give up. You know, don't give up. Keep on having those discussions around the dinner table, at around the pub, anywhere. Keep on having those discussions. It's hard nowadays. You know, politics has gotten so weird, you know, so divided. I find if we, I hang out with people of all political stripes. If we get down to policy discussions and we have honest discussions about goals and objectives that we hold in common, it's a great time having a chat about this kind of stuff. I don't know how to do it better. I don't know how to make it sexier. I'm looking to you guys to make it sexier. So like look at Don right there. Like, man, the dude makes it sexy right there. I would even swipe right on you, Don. I'm just saying. Let me know, and let me know how I can help amplify that conversation, because it's something that we need to do.
Okay, a little bit of RCP inside baseball now. Did Don swipe right on you at the last
at the
council
Christmas
report cards
last year?
That was a reference to, I don't see. Okay, so the app came out after I got married. So if I actually knew how to use it, I would be in big trouble. I don't know if swiping right or left is good.
Swiping right is good, left is bad.
Okay, so I got the left-hand swipe.
Oh
dear.
You should have made this conversation sexier, Chris. Your profile is not great. You got
so it's something that hurt me deeply, and I'm finally being able to talk publicly about it. So I appreciate the support that you've given me in the past, and I try not to hold it against Don.
Well, on the plus side, the next year-end show is only like 3 months away, so you know there's always an opportunity to get that right swipe.
Interestingly enough, that's one of the new slogans we're trying out, is "Don't hold Don against us." So
against anybody. That's just a good policy, no matter what the situation is. Just before we close out, I got a couple more questions. Aren't we seeing a lot of this type of thing happening now, where you're getting more development in the urban cores just because strictly of housing costs? It's now financially viable to redevelop an industrial site as opposed to just leaving it vacant and building, you know, out on greenfield somewhere.
Absolutely, 100%. You know, we're seeing developments now that are happening outside of CIP areas. Like I look at the at Marintet and Erie Street. There's a 4-story building going up there. That is not in a CIP area. The Walker Power Building, that's not in a CIP area. These are areas that the real estate prices have finally got to that point of justifying the expense of the developers. So yes, yeah, that is a huge driver that we're seeing all across the city. Our job is to determine, as a municipality, as a council, is determine what kind of built form we want to see in our community and incentivize that. So what we see happening in the good areas, Don, of we're also seeing on Banwell, and there's different costs, different returns on investment there. The different costs to the municipalities between the exact same building that's the market is supporting on Banwell that the market is supporting on Erie Street. So it's our job, and really it's the only job we have of the municipality, is how we build our landscape, our land, is to incentivize what we feel is good. And from everything that I've been reading, it's more in the urban core. It's more dense infill.
So one more practical question on something like this. How do you convince people who live in your older developed areas like Walkerville where you live, or downtown where I live? I mean, we see it already when you were the villain in the scenario where those the old church lots were, when they were talking about building a low-rise condo there, everybody, Chris is in the pockets of developers, that kind of thing. I'd like to say I also encouraged that narrative because it was funny to me. And but how do you convince people in the Walkerville area, which is an affluent area, probably one of the most historic areas, that, hey, you know what, you're going to have to maybe have some low-rise condo developments here, or an area like downtown? Or we see every time there's a condo announced, someone's complaining about their view of the sunset, and they're pushing back on it. So how do you sell this to the residents in the more affluent neighborhoods that are traditional old style neighborhoods, that they're also going to have to change? It can't just be, yeah, this is a great idea, go do it somewhere else.
Well, yeah, I lost a bunch of votes if I had them in the first place because of that development. But I'll tell you, 10-to-1 emails came in supporting my vision, that supporting me and the integrity to move forward in the way that I've always moved forward in supporting these kind of developments. Yeah, it upsets some people. But if you get in this line of work expecting to make everybody happy, you're crazy, right? So it's, that making strong, bold decisions upon about the built landscape around somebody's home is going to turn some people off. I've also had the people that their voice wasn't amplified in the media, living across the street, living around there, that supported me and fully understood what this was going to bring to the community. Let's speak specifically about the St. George's church, the old church behind the Tim Hortons. They're starting to, they understand that, this is going to bring businesses to the small businesses in Ottawa Street. We're going to have a higher quality of life because these people are moving in a higher density. That doesn't take the responsibility for me to make sure that it's built properly, though. It's not density at any cost. It still has to be respectful. It still has to appreciate the fact that these are people that have lived the urban lifestyle for 30 years, and we need them to be very, very happy continuing living that urban lifestyle. We need these people. We need more and more champions and cheerleaders for really building out our community in this way. And we're getting it. We're getting it because we're treating people honestly and respectfully, and having these conversations like this about exactly why we need to do this as a municipality. And that turns on more people than it turns off. So it might seem like the media, if it bleeds, it leads. It might seem like everybody's pissed off, but the vast majority of people support that vision.
So when this report came out in Halifax, a common complaint from people like me and many other people is, we'll do all these studies, we'll do all these reports, and that sits on a shelf and we move on to the next shiny object that we want to look at. Did Halifax actually do anything with this report concerning development or urbanization or development zoning changes?
I can't answer that question, Don. I have no clue what the follow-up was to that. I read the report, obviously, before I asked administration to recreate that report for us. That's up to the will of council, to be honest. It's up to keeping people, and I could just speak for us. It's up to the people to remind your councillor that this is important. We have to follow through, and your councillor having the balls to actually go forward with it himself or herself. It takes a community to rally around an idea and keep that idea alive. But I feel you on that shelf that's buckling under the weight of all those reports. It's sad, and we need to start pulling those reports off, dusting them off. Half of them up there have my name on them too. The Active Transportation Master Plan. Yeah, don't get me started.
So on a final question, most importantly, is it still 2-for-1 wing night at Chapter 2 Brewery tonight?
Tonight, 2-for-1 wings. I highly recommend the spicy peanut. Oh my God, it is so good.
I haven't had those ones yet.
Oh, you got to try it.
All right, my cross-examination of the witness is done. Feel free to close the show now.
That's the second time you've used that joke, Don.
I was kidding before.
Just saying.
All my jokes are recycled, Chris. I got like 6.
Oh,
And
we
that's
know.
all I got.
Oh,
I got.
I was in Halifax a couple of years back. I'll just drop on this. Went there for some stuff with the Trailer Park Boys when they were launching their whiskey, and was able to put together an interview with the mayor, Mike Savage, on the tarmac in Ottawa. Called his office and just said, "Hey, I'll be in Halifax in like a couple hours. Can we do an interview sometime today or tomorrow?" He's like, "Absolutely, yeah, we'll set it up." It was unbelievable, the contrast, because our mayor at the time wasn't conducting interviews with local outlets here. But the Mayor Savage said, like, no, they created a very intentional plan of walkable cities. They used street paint to create paths down Argyle Street. They painted it Argyle. But he had a very big concept that he was promoting personally, sort of a hub and spoke design, where the hub was the city, but he wanted to be seeing more long streets like we have with University going outward from the core, and then with the infill along those roads. Now, again, that's 4 years ago, but it would be interesting to see if there's been any push on that type of a thing. But, it all goes back to what people want, is that walkability and those neighborhoods that they can actually feel that they're living a part of, not driving through.
We see it time and again. And I would love to, I really enjoy having conversations with people who get it. It's, you can tell when somebody's just going through the motions and saying, using the terms just because they feel they need to. But the people who get it are so much fun to talk to, because they see the ripples of building this way, and they see how it affects, everything in a municipality. It's wonderful to see. It's wonderful to hear. I loved Halifax. I went there for a conference a few years ago, one of my my boondoggles on the public dime, and I've just loved it and learned a lot from them. So yeah, if we can learn something from them too, let's do it.
Absolutely. Well, Councillor, thank you so much for joining us. I know we all really appreciate it. I'm sure that the listeners do as well. You took a full hour. We took a full hour of your time, so that means a lot to us. Thank you so much. It is September the 8th. This is Rose City Politics. Our panel tonight, Doug Sartori, John Lidke, Don Merrifield Jr., guest host, Ward 4 Councillor Chris Holt. Head over to
I didn't expect you to stop right there like that. I was going to say thank you so much, and we got into it so quickly. We didn't even get a chance to your backgrounds. Like you didn't even get a chance to really identify your backgrounds. I know where Don is, but I'm really curious about Doug's.
Oh, well, this is obviously Chris Holt's fever dream of a future winter. There's no question about it. That's why it's my background.
What, a slum in South Africa? Is that what that is?
It's a shanty town in the Philippines.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I got my shanty towns mixed up.
My go-to is always the utopia of San Francisco from Star Trek. All mass densification and infill and lots of flying vehicles. That's what we all want, right?
Mine is a blank emptiness of despair and sadness.
It represents who you are on the inside.
Close.
Thank you, boys. Thank you.
Yeah, we were so glad to have you. Thank you for sharing. Thanks for educating us on this. This is Rose City Politics. Please head over to patreon.com/Rose City Politics. Help us out. Pick us up in print or head to bizxmagazine.com and you can check us out on social media, wherever you get your podcasts. And Rose City Politics has been able to broadcast live on tape, thanks to the kind support of Leuna 625, Building Better Communities. We'll see you next week.